So Futurama just finished airing its 12th season, probably about last week by the time this video comes out. And I was sitting here thinking, what'd be the most fun way to do a full review of the series without it being like an hour long? So I decided we're gonna do a little quick recap and then my thoughts on the videos, and then I'm just gonna throw them onto a tier list. So this is Futurama's season 12 reviewed and ranked. And like I've been saying, guys, normally this is just where the thanks for watching screen pops up, but we are at 931 subscribers, and I would like to thank everybody who's subscribed, but I'd really like to get to 1,000 before Christmas, so if you guys could help me achieve that, it would be greatly appreciated. So episode 1 is titled The One Amigo. Essentially what happens is Bender discovers that the Planet Express kids are all making and selling NFTs. So he obviously just wants to be the center of attention, tries to get in on it, so he uses all of his past personas to make a bunch of NFTs of himself, and then they sell it. But then all the NFTs end up getting bought out, and Bender's not getting any of the credit. So he sort of has an existential crisis at this point, a la Bender. And luckily, though, he seems to have learned, because instead of going to the suicide booth, he decides to kind of go on a spiritual journey back to his home country, which is essentially Mexico, because Bender is Hispanic. So he goes down there, ends up meeting his family, and he really does kind of connect with his family, believe it or not. Finds out he has a lot in common with his grandmother, meets his cousin, and he looks pretty much exactly like him. And basically gets kind of tricked into sacrificing himself through winning a game, and it's just kind of devolves from there, with the two stories plotting together being that he actually manages to find an ancient string binary language that can decode his NFTs and bring it all back. And the best part about this is none of the adults really understand NFTs, because quite frankly in real life NFTs ended up really amounting to nothing. And it was just kind of a big fluke that kind of blew up, where people were spending crazy amounts of money on what amounted to really nothing. I never really got the NFT thing, and the beauty part of this is no one really else in the story outside of the kids really can explain or understand NFTs. It was actually what I thought to be a pretty good classic Bender episode, where he just kind of goes on this journey of self-discovery. And with that, honestly, I am just going to go ahead and place this one. It was definitely what I would say, I don't really want to put it in the S tier, because I don't think it was really S tier level, but as far as like a Bender story goes, it was definitely A tier. With putting it in A tier, it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it, got a lot of laughs out of me, and it was kind of nice to see like more of Bender's family, because we always hear about him, and I'm really happy with sticking this one in the A tier for the episodes. Then we get into episode 2, which is called Quid Game, and what this is essentially, it's one of their classic Fry episodes where it is intercut with flashbacks to Fry when he was a kid. Now, I didn't really like this one as much as I liked the other Fry episodes, because all of this is based around Fry's birthday and his parents throwing him his birthday party and all of his friends coming over. Now, in the flashbacks, you see Fry winning all of these party games that they're playing. And the Quids game, where the crew and all of the extras and all the extended cast gets kind of trapped into this game. It's essentially a playoff of Squid Game, and obviously they were going to have to do one of those episodes eventually. And so what it is the Quid Game is actually all the same party games from Fry's birthday party. And it's all kind of leading up to, well, all of his friends are getting mad at him, including Deji, who you find out used to be one of his good friends, because he's winning all of these games, and it really kind of doesn't make sense. It's very nicely intercut. Now, the deal is, though, is like Fry in the future does not want to cheat, and it's shown that all of his friends thought he was cheating. So he's actually like grossly not cheating, because he could just win all of these games because he knows how they all end. So all of the extended cast is basically just getting killed off, while the intercuts show him winning all of these games as a kid and his friends getting progressively more mad at him. The big turnabout is in the end, he does actually just cheat. He says, I know where the last, I think it was a baseball hidden in the fridge or something like that. And he knows where it is, and it ends up being there, and they win the game. Turns out nobody was dead. Everybody comes back to life. Nice little closeout there. But in the flashback, it shows that his parents were actually cheating for him to give him the win, because they didn't think he could actually do it, but they still loved him enough and wanted to give him a good birthday party and make him feel like a winner. But in doing that, they actually made him look like a cheater to all of his friends. And that's kind of what I didn't like about this. So all the other episodes where you get the flashbacks of Fry, it shows his parents, it looks like they're not happy with him or that they don't believe in him. But then at the end, you find out that no, they did actually believe in him. And this one, you didn't get that. It just kind of showed like, yes, they wanted to make him happy, but they kind of missed the mark with the family connection there. So That's really what I didn't like about this. Other than that, it was a great episode, and I would be very willing to set this once again in the A tier for that reason. I did not think it wasn't like the best episode. It didn't give me any kind of real butterflies or anything like that. I mean, it did, just showing Fry's past, but like I said, if I were to rank the Fry videos, this would be at the bottom of the list. They kind of fell short on the mark, in my opinion, with that one, but like I said, it was an A-tier episode. I really did enjoy it. It was fun seeing how they did their own version of Squid Games, so I believe it can go straight in the A-tier. So then after that, we got The Temp. This episode legitimately blew my mind for the first 5-ish, 10-ish minutes. I don't even know how long it was. So the episode starts out with them going to a wedding, and the whole crew is acting normal, except when it shows Fry, it is not Fry. And then it does a flashback to where Fry is actually trying to take vacation, so they hire this temp, and the temp essentially like takes over Fry's life, like while Fry's on vacation. And I am not going to lie to you, 100%, I thought they were about to retcon the entire series and say that Fry was actually replaced by this guy, and he's the one who's been living Fry's life this entire time. And in that, I was fuming, because then you missed all of the great character building and all of that, and I was actually fairly upset about that. But then it actually shows that wasn't the case, that they actually went to a planet to like drop off a bunch of books or something like that, and they actually just left the temp there, because his whole thing is he's a temp and he is extremely forgettable. And then Fry comes back, and I was like, oh, thank God. And then it shows how when they went back to get the temp, he actually managed to trap Fry on the planet, and he has only been reading this book about how to hypnotize people. And, you know, chaos ensues. They ended up figuring out and going back and getting Fry. And that was kind of like the whole moral of the episode. It's kind of a little bit of a one-shot. But honestly, if I had to rank this, for the fact that they actually managed to kind of blow my mind, even in the slightest, I'm going to give this thing an S tier ranking, purely for the fact that they blew my mind in the beginning, and they held on to that for a little while for me. And I am just going to throw that there, because honestly, that fake out in the beginning was just perfectly executed, in my opinion. And the fact that none of the other cast seemed to even realize that that wasn't Fry, and you got no explanation until like the middle of the episode, really sold this one for me. Then after that, we get the Beauty and the Bug, and honestly, this one was another Bender-centric episode, which are always great. And essentially, the whole plot here is they go to Amy's ranch on Mars, and Leela is oddly obsessed with the buffalo meat, and she just keeps eating. That's like her whole thing throughout this whole episode, and she just keeps eating buffalo meat. She even pulls some out of the trash at some point. And it's kind of like a animal rights kind of thing, which was weird in this episode, because Amy kind of took that role from Leela. And they're on their ranch, and essentially, like, they're talking about how, like, the buffalo, they have no real brain, they don't really care, and the professor even scans it and says that they don't. And then they go and show them the buffalo fighting. And then they do kind of a running of the bulls thing, and which is cool, except they call it the running of the buffalo, and they're essentially, it's just everybody watching for the carnage. Bender falls in and is just dodging all of the buffalo while listening to this fembot's name that he really likes. So Abner Doubledeal sees him do this and offers him the job to become a buffalo fighter. Turns out the fembot that he likes actually is already a buffalo fighter, and he's actually pretty good at this. So obviously the whole plot here, Amy's against it, Bender is doing this, and his first buffalo fight, he goes out and he says that before the buffalo essentially ran himself against the sword, he thought that there was actually like a conscience there, like he felt something. Now, throughout this whole thing here, like Amy's trying to get on Leela's side, Leela's like, let's just let this be your thing. Everybody else is excited about Bender going to his bullfighting, but then Bender finds out that the buffalo can actually talk, but no one believes him. So he feels like, okay, now I can't let these things die, so he actually dresses up as a buffalo and goes up against the fembot that he likes, and when she kills him, it ends up just being Bender, and then all the buffalo come together, and you find out that individually they have like no brainwaves, but when they come together, they create like what's essentially a hive mind and allows all of them to talk. And in their own traditions is actually a big part of that is buffalo fighting, which is weird, and they even say that it's weird in the episode, but then this girlfriend finds out, or the fembot finds out that Bender's also been kind of promised to a bunch of the other fembots because, you know, he's Bender. And so her and the buffalo end up attacking him. Now, honestly, as far as like stories go and things like that, it wasn't bad, but I actually didn't like it because it felt like the characters were just underutilized in a weird way. Like, I didn't really like what they did with Leela and have it, because she's the animal rights person. Like, there's been multiple things that said like she should have a problem with this, and the fact that all they did with her was have her eat the buffalo meat or the buffalo meat, and then have Amy kind of step up into that role was weird. It was nice to see them doing stuff with Amy. I feel like, you know, they could have done more with her and Leela kind of coming together to do this, as opposed to like her and Bender. And honestly, it wasn't like that great of a Bender subplot in the thing. I mean, it was just another like, oh, Bender likes this girl. But like, I feel like there was more there with him, with like the mafioso's wife, whenever he had that fling, amongst like other things. So honestly, this one to me, I would have to say this is more of like a C tier episode. I just didn't like it, guys. It wasn't that great in my opinion. So yeah, I'm just going to throw that there. I think that's fair. It wasn't horrible. The writing was good, but like it was bottom of the barrel for me. I wasn't super into that. So then we get into the next episode, which is called One is Silicon and the Other is Gold. So this is a Leela episode, and it kind of revolves around the whole thing where like Leela never really has friends. She's not friends with other women. She's just kind of, with her strong-willed personality and stuff, she's kind of at odds a lot throughout a lot of the series with other women, and she doesn't really have all that many friends. And they kind of tackle that in this episode. So what they do is they introduce her to like this AI, and she becomes essentially like what you would expect. She just kind of gets super attached to the AI. And then when she moves away from that, she actually finds this group of girls that they all kind of come together, and they are actually being best friends and things like that and going out and doing stuff. Then the AI gets jealous and tries to stop it. But then you find out like towards the very end that one of the girls that she was friends with is actually the AI in a robot body, and the AI is just kind of omniscient, which can move around, so there's no real way to kill it. And they actually do attack the robot. But at the end of the episode, Leela has this friend group now, which they don't kind of show in any of the rest of the season, so hopefully they bring that back. And I don't know, like I did not really connect with this episode either, I'm not gonna lie. So if I had to throw this one in a ranking for me, and mind you, this is my own personal ranking, it's also gonna go with the C ranking. I kind of saw the AI thing coming, and if I'm just going to be perfectly honest with you, like, I thought there was better ways they could have handled Leela finding friends. And, you know, I don't know. It just didn't really ring for me. I feel like the AI thing has been done out. I understand they were making fun of a movie, and I can't remember what it is. But, like, yeah, so this is where this one fell for me. It wasn't too terrible. The writing was good. If you were a female and you enjoyed this, please let me know and in the comments, and let's have a great talk about that as to like where I fall short. But like I said, just I personally did not find this all that great. Like, it wasn't top tier for me on the interest list, but like I said, it wasn't a bad episode. It just hit there for me. Then we get in the next episode, which is the Attack of the Clothes. This was very clearly not meant to be a canon episode. This is a one-off episode, and or if you want to look at it through the greater thing, possibly a multiverse episode where essentially what happens is the professor is kind of fed up with science because he tries to win a prize by essentially creating a new body for a famous actress. Now, what ends up happening here is he becomes a famous fashion mogul because he can just kind of print out these clothes with these moths. And throughout the course of things, he actually discovers that, oh, I can make these things essentially pocket-sized and just have people print off new clothes every single day. But you get a new outfit every day, and then you just toss these ones you wore that day into a wormhole. And when he asks where's the wormhole lead, I don't know. He doesn't really know. He just says it goes off to some far distant thing. So, but then what happens is Zoidberg actually realizes, you know, hey, I like these clothes I got today, but I also liked the clothes I had yesterday. So I would like to wear those clothes yesterday again. The professor's kind of like, why? And then the famous person is like, oh, that actually makes sense, and this is how this would work, blah, blah, blah. So then they end up going into the wormhole to try and get the thing back, and they're in a world that is just covered in clothes. And though they do end up finding the clothes that Zoidberg was wearing, the famous person actually ends up being stuck into that thing. And then they do the Planet of the Apes thing, where it turns out that she is actually stuck in the future of Earth, and as the Planet Express crew gets back, they're like, oh, well, if that's the future, like, when does this happen? And then it just immediately starts happening with clothes raining from the sky. As a what if episode, and like a non-canon episode, this one was actually kind of fun. It's one of the rare professor-themed episodes that's not like science-based, but it still has some cool science in it, because making the moths was like really cool. And honestly, if I had to tier this one, I would put this one as probably a B tier episode. I saw it coming, but I did like that they're trying some new things with the professor, with him not being just straight up scientific all the time. Like, it was kind of nice to see him stretch his legs a little bit and still use like the science aspect of it to create the fashion and stuff. And then, but like I said, though, that you saw the ending coming from a mile away, and there was really no way around that. Like, if you had any clue about what was happening, you knew that the future with the clothes was going to be the Planet of the Apes style, you did this kind of thing. So, but then the next episode after that is Planet Espresso. The whole premise behind this is Hermes doesn't have a great connection with his father, and he wants to have a better connection with his son. Then he finds out that his dad is dying, and he goes to see his dad, essentially just to tell him off. And his dad pretty much dies immediately, and Hermes never actually gets a chance to tell him off. Although he kind of does, but his dad's just kind of like out of it, and they make a bunch of jokes about it as Hermes is trying to tell him off, and then his dad ends up dying. And his dad actually owned a coffee farm in New Jamaica, where he was making all kinds of coffee beans. And while the professor and Hermes are trying to bury Hermes' dad, they actually discover an ancient spaceship that is fueled essentially by coffee. And then you get this long backstory and like a weird coffee-filled drug trip, essentially. This beings that brought the ship there actually were spreading coffee throughout the universe, and the coffee is what actually fast-tracked the evolution of life on the planet. They even use this as like a 10,000 BC reference, where they have a coffee cup with all the apes, and the apes drink the coffee, and that's what spurs like the evolution and the intelligence of humanity. And for them to throw this out there at this stage, to throw another thing into the history of Earth in Futurama, is honestly kind of crazy in my opinion, because God, does this show have some crazy long history in its timeline. But then obviously what happens is once they figure this out, Hermes decides, oh, now I need to start farming this coffee and getting it out to the world, because this is like the most potent stuff. Planet Express essentially becomes a coffee delivery company, and throughout this whole process though, Hermes is being extremely neglectful to his wife and son, just like his father did. Now the fun part about it is though, is he actually throws some beans and some coffee into the grave where they buried his dad, and his dad actually sprouts up and his consciousness ends up in a tree. And then they have like this weird talk where they don't really settle things, or kind of settle things. I don't know, it's kind of is what it is. And then Hermes goes back to his parents, sells off the company to mom, who is essentially making all kinds of money. And his dad is now just living in a pot in his house. So to rank this one, I'm actually going to put this in the B tier, because quite frankly, we've gotten better Hermes episodes. Like, we just have. Like, him and Bender's story was great. We could have gotten a better Hermes episode. Could have been better handled with him and his father a little bit there. And honestly, just another dump that there's just this another thing that has affected Earth, and like the jumpstart deal and that little bit of a retcon. It was just a little much, I think. And I don't think you really needed that to progress this particular story. I think you could have left out the fact that the coffee like jump-started humanity, and they could have just made it a central Hermes and his dad's story and him taking over the business, and I think that would have still gotten your point across with the story, and in just a little bit of a better way. So it falls down with the B tier. I'm tempted to put it in C tier, to be honest with you. I don't think it was on the same par as the other two for me, with just falling flat, because I do like and I love the, you know, extensions to the universe. I do actually love that. I just think it was handled not all that great. So I think a B tier is a pretty good spot to leave this one, but overall I think that's just okay. It could go back and forth between these two for me. And then we get into cuteness overload. So this is the Beanie Baby episode. And any of you guys know any history about Beanie Babies, you knew exactly where this was going. But it is an Amy-centric episode, and we actually get to see Amy with her children. And I've been waiting for the last few seasons to really get more of a build-up with this family. But this one fell flat for me. Essentially what it is Amy's kids are spoiled brats, which makes sense because she's rich and Kip is a high-ranking officer in the military. So they are loaded with cash. And because of that, their kids are essentially just brats. So to teach them the lesson, you know, to respect what you have and things like that, she actually takes them to the orphanarium that Leela grew up at. And they all kind of volunteer there. Amy lets her kids like kind of see the other side. But Amy is actually very clearly not okay with it. She thinks all the kids are dingy. She tells their kids not to touch them and stuff like that. And then she like leaves, makes them all shower, promises she's going to buy them stuff and things like that. And then she actually gets addicted to collecting these Beanie Babies to the point where she's completely obsessed with it, even leaving her kids at the orphanarium for a while to go and get like one of the rarest ones they have. Turns out though, the B plot of this is these things are actually alive, and they're just a being that has evolved to be ultra cute so that way nothing messes with them. And they start killing people, except the professor figures out that there's probably one that's like ultra rare, that's like the ultimate hive mind one, and that ends up being the only one that Amy could not find, that she ended up actually giving to the little girl at the orphanarium, who kind of just gives it to her, and Amy wants to buy it, but the little girl doesn't want to. But then the things come to life and they start attacking the kids, and Amy kind of has her come to motherhood moment where she's trying to save it, and she's willing to bring her kids back and everything else. And honestly, I don't mind the Beanie Baby reference. It's like growing up when I did like in the 90s, I kind of hit with the whole Beanie Baby craze, but I wasn't old enough to actually partake in any of the crazy spending in court cases because everyone thought that Beanie Babies were going to be this overly inflated thing. And turns out they're not, by the way. If you have Beanie Babies and you think they're worth money, they are not. Those things were mass produced, and it's just not worth your time to even collect them, and everybody's still trying to get rid of them, and it just was a horrible thing. But honestly though, I don't really want to rank this thing any higher than a C tier story. I knew exactly where it was going while I was watching it, and I want more of the actual family dynamic between her, Kif, and these kids. Like, we have this family. Her and Kif have been together since like some of the earliest seasons, and like we don't see them building a family. And now, okay, so they just have, these are just spoiled kids. And like that first episode when the kids came out and Amy like fell in love with them and everything, that was perfect. That was classic. That's exactly what I wanted. But to just see that now they just have these spoiled kids, and yes, she did learn her lesson in the end, and hopefully later on we get more of a build up with this particular family. This one, it just fell flat for me. I didn't think she learned the lesson soon enough, and then honestly having her like go back to save them and realizing, okay, like kids aren't just in these upper class, like are okay and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, I thought that they were going to adopt the kids. I know that wouldn't have made sense for the storyline and things like that, but at least she's letting her daughter go back and play with her friend. And like I said, I think this was a C tier story. I don't know. It didn't connect. I knew what the things were. It was very clearly that these things were going to be the problem. But then we get to the Futurama Mystery Library. It's another one of the episodes where they just kind of like play around with just different ideas for the characters and putting them in different stories and all that kind of stuff. And I was hoping having a mystery one was going to be a little bit better. Honestly, this one, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as some of the other stories that we've gotten like this. I don't know if it was just because I'm not all that into mystery, or maybe they didn't play up like the mystery part of it enough. It wasn't, honestly, to me, it was not campy enough. And it wasn't like, oh, well, hey, here's the twist is that this is this. And so they follow, like, 1 second Leela's like a junior detective, and then they show up, and all the characters start coming in, and Amy's like a tomboy thing, and they keep referring to her as the tomboy and keep referring to other people as, like, just what they would be, and they keep calling that aspect of it out. And though I do understand why they're calling that aspect of it out, if you're going to play the story, just play with the story, because they wouldn't have called that out when these stories were being made. And I understand that those kinds of things need to get called out, and I do fully agree that, you know, hey, these stories were extremely sexist when they were written, and it's okay to call those things out, but maybe don't be so on the nose about it. And I just did not like the fact that they were. They like calling them out the way they did kind of like fell flat for that. And then the fact that those two characters just take off in the end, like they have them in the end, these two just drive away and ditch the other ones just out into like this weird clock that just keeps absorbing everything. And that was fine. And the fact they start out with Leela as the detective and she disappears, and then Fry and Bender just kind of take over and is like, oh, we've got our own detection agency. That's even fine to me. I don't think the story really tied together all that well in the way that that was going. So if I were going to have to rank this story, I would have to go ahead and throw this one at, honestly, probably B tier. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as the rest of them. This is another one that could go like either way for me. I like the concept. Actually, you know what? No, this one's a C tier for me. It's just not like they hit too many things on the nose. They were trying to be a little too overly out with everything. And yeah, I'm gonna put this one at C tier, guys. They could have done a lot better with this, honestly, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna leave it here at C tier. And then we get into the season finale called Otherwise, and this one is beautiful but also frustrating. So the whole idea behind this is actually that this was a season finale episode, and also they decided to go ahead and make it into a cancellation episode, even though I'm pretty sure they still got like another 20 episodes coming, so 2 extra seasons. The premise behind this is the Planet Express ship gets pretty much demolished, and they decide here that, okay, we cannot replace the ship, so the ship is now going to be the allegory for the show. They decide they're going to hold a full-fledged funeral for the ship, and then they take the ship to what is essentially a graveyard, which is just like an interdimensional thing where they just throw ships in. And before they actually manage to do that, Fry and everybody do one last walkabout on the ship, and then Fry starts having these crazy flashbacks of his time spent with Leela when he froze time in Meanwhile. And that kind of causes him to pass out. And then they realize, oh no, Fry's still on the ship. So they all run back, and they all end up falling into the weird multiversal void thing. And you get some awesome flashes of possible futures and other timelines and things like that, and into this multiverse still, which was super amazing and really cool. You get another Disenchanted reference, and you see like Fry and Leela's kid in one of them. It's actually really cool, and there's a few videos out there that have broken that down that you guys should definitely go and watch. But it doesn't show you how they get out of it. They're just kind of fished out, and then you follow on this Fry, and Fry decides, okay, now here I have been seeing all these things and it's weird and I don't understand it, but he does decide that now I need to propose to Leela. So he goes to propose to Leela, and they actually go to the same rooftop where he was going to propose to her in Meanwhile. And then he starts having these weird flashbacks, and he almost falls off the roof again, but she saves him. And then he says, okay, I just can't do this right now. I need to figure this out. In the meantime, the professor has built them a new Planet Express ship. So we're losing the Planet Express ship in this, and it's super high tech and up to date and everything else. And there's even a whole room for the can opener, who tried to kill Bender again a little bit earlier in the thing, and he actually sings the folk songs, which is always a fun running gag. And you know, Bender has like this weird side plot with the can opener, which I thought was kind of fun. It's always there. But Fry's like a little upset. He's like, no, like this just doesn't feel right, because this isn't our ship. Like, this ship was my home and everything. And then this ghost ship starts showing up and is attacking other ships. And Fry's like, that's the Planet Express ship. We need to go get the Planet Express ship. So they end up flying the new ship back, and they run into the Nimbus, and then Zap and Kip are there, and they're attacking the Planet Express ship. But at one point, Fry actually sees the ghost ship, and Fry can see it. No one else can, though. He's like, no, the Planet Express ship, it's right there. Oh, well, crap, now it's gone, but nobody saw it. And then they go over the graveyard, which is the multiversal thing, and they start having this weird three-way battle because they're all cloaked and everything, so no one can see who's shooting at the other. And the episode actually ends with Fry and Leela getting married by Zap, and then the mystery ship shooting one last missile and actually killing everybody. All the while, Fry's like trying to figure out why he's having all of these weird flashbacks, but kind of flash forwards, and it's all these images in his head of like this other time that he can't have lived because he's too old, but it feels like he did. He just doesn't understand any of it. And then they ruin it. So what happens is, like I said, the new ship blows up with everybody on it, and then it cuts to the ship that shot at him. And that turns out to be the Planet Express crew that we follow throughout the series. And the other crew that we'd seen that Fry just got married to Leela was from a different reality that it kind of came up somehow into our people's reality, or maybe it was the other way around, or maybe they were just close enough to the void to where it was just like this weird kind of mingle. But then you find out in like this rapid explanation scene that they all fell in, they woke up Fry, they all worked together to fix the ship, and the Planet Express ship actually kind of floats them out and saves their life. And the episode ends with Fry going, I just have all of these weird things that flash into my head. And Leela's like, well, what were they? So he draws a crude picture of them both old kissing. And she's like, wow, they look kind of weird, but they look happy. Wonder what it's about. And Fry's like, I don't know, but let's go find out. And then it just kind of ends with the music and everything. And now, I did enjoy that ending because it was like a fun thing, but it also, it sort of fell flat as like a series finale to me a little bit, but that also like kind of leaves room to set up like maybe Fry and Leela are going to try and figure out what all they did in Meanwhile together as it goes forwards into the next series, which is something I would really like to see in the next season. And to rank this one, honestly, for me, I have to put this one at the top. It's S tier. It was an awesome episode. I love it when you get Fry and Leela based episodes, because that relationship is just something that you've had to build on. I love the fact they actually get married. Now, like I said, there are places where it falls a little bit flat for me, like with the ending and with that, because if it was like a series finale, normally they just kind of end and then they have like kind of a retcon as to why they bring it back. And they do kind of address one of the biggest retcons of the show with this 10-year time skip that they actually get in episode 1 of season 11. I actually really liked how they handled it, but I did think it kind of fell flat in a few spots for me, but honestly, it was an S tier episode. But like, if I had to give my final thoughts on the season, honestly, it wasn't the worst season that they've had in Futurama, but it definitely wasn't as good as season 11. And I don't know, maybe if it was just because, you know, season 11 was so good because I was just excited to get new Futurama, and now this is that's kind of waned into season 12. But also I feel like if I were to rank season 11's season 11's episodes, and please drop comments down if you would like for me to do the tier list of those episodes. I think like overall, if I had to give this thing like a full-blown ranking, I would say it was like a 7 out of 10. It wasn't as good as season 11, and they definitely did introduce some things that they could bring into season 13, but I think some of the episodes just didn't quite hit the mark. I mean, Squid Game has been out forever, and it's kind of came and hit and miss. It was kind of fun watching them reference the Beanie Babies, but like the bullfighting and Bugalo thing, I just didn't really get. You know, kind of like the What If episode that they've been doing, which is kind of fun. I understand it's a chance for like the writers to kind of flex a little bit and not have to follow the story. It just wasn't as good as some of the other ones we've gotten. And that includes the one where one of the whole scenes is literally just them looking at pixels. So yeah, I don't know. Those are my overall thoughts about the season. I did enjoy watching it. It's great that we're getting more Futurama. I do like that Hulu's taking over and what they're doing with it with Disney and everything. So I don't know. Those are just my thoughts though. And if you guys have different thoughts, that's fine. Let's have a full discussion in the comments section down below. But while you're down there, guys, please also remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me. We're so close to 1,000 subs. I'd really love to hit there before Christmas once again, and I will see you guys in the next video.